What up? What's up, everybody? Right now, I'm just gonna check to make sure everything's working and we don't have the same problem as. Yep, there you go. So we don't have the same problem as last week. Last week was really bad. That's why I canceled the stream. I don't know what happened. I think because I put up the last of the insulation in my shop, and it just started blocking off any possible signal coming through, and the internet was just really laggy and terrible. And I swear, if it does it this time, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But we're gonna try. And then, if it is really bad, I'm just gonna cut it short. Seems to be going okay so far. I mean, granted, I'm not moving too much. I feel like once I start moving in front of the camera, it's gonna start glitching out. But yeah, I bought one of those like Wi-Fi extenders to see if it could help bring the signal closer to my shop, but I don't know if it's doing any good. Seems to be working fine. It's giving me a warning that the stream might lag out at some point. But like I said, I'm gonna do this to the best of my ability, and if it lags out, and we'll just try again sometime during the week when I can figure it out. Worst comes to worst, just backplay it. I mean, 100% it's going to start lagging out. So if you want, just like go back like couple seconds or maybe like a minute, and then you'll probably be able to enjoy it without having to deal with any of the stupid lags. Make sure that's not in the way. And I think we're good. Yep. That seems to be working fine. So, let's see. I assume you guys can hear me. I feel like I was a little low in tone my last live stream, and that kind of affected a little bit of the audio. But I think I'm just going to speak a little louder for this one. But so for this live stream, I thought instead of doing, because like usually most of the live streams I just do some sculptures or work on some old projects, but I haven't done any casting videos. And you see, I could have done like a video about it, but I feel like showing you the entire process is kind of the point of showing you guys like to the extent of what I do with this stuff, instead of just like skimming through all the key little necessities. So I thought I would just go through like a step-by-step process of just showing you guys like what it takes for me to get a casting. And there's different ways to cast, and I'm going to go through all that. I'm going to show just like I guess like the traditional way, like the hands-on way, and then I'm going to show you guys with this big old meaty pressure pot, which if you're good at casting, you don't really need this. I mean, there's certain things you'll probably need it for example, like crystal clear, which if you're trying to get like a nice glass looking casting, there's no possible way you can do it without using this compresses the air, and it pushes out all the air. I'm trying to explain the process of this. I mean, like I can kind of explain the way a vacuum chamber, which is the complete opposite. It sucks out the air. That sucks out the air. This pushes in the air. This is better for urethanes, because urethanes, if you try to put it in a vacuum chamber, what it'll do is it'll start frothing, and if there's any overspill, it'll fall into your nice clean pot, and it'll harden, and then you have this nasty, crusty bottom surface that you'll have to go in and scrape out. So it's a horrible way to use a vacuum chamber. That's usually for silicone, and if you do have overspray with silicone, you just, when it cures, you just peel it off very nice and easy. But with this, it compresses it, and it takes out all the air. It doesn't suck out the air, pushes air in, and it kind of acts like, I guess you can kind of explain if this is the best way I can explain it. I'm sure all of you guys have played with putty or slime. If you were to just grab like a nice big ball and you put it right on the top, right? You have this nice air bubble at the bottom, air gap, and there's no way for the air to escape because it has all that material on top. But if you were to grab your fists or like your knuckles and you push it in, it pushes the material all the way to the bottom and all the air escapes from the side. And that's kind of, how pressure pot works. A more simplistic way of explaining. But yeah, so with these castings, these are solid, so there's no slush. So something like this would be ideal to use. You can do this by hand. You just got to get your finger in there, get a nice good scrub. But I'm going to show you that process first, and then I'm going to show you guys how I do this. And if you guys have been watching my Instagram, this came in I think it was 2 weeks ago. But I've been wanting to use it. I haven't used it yet. I don't even know if it's good. I've been trying to buy, a pressure pot, but, they're very expensive. And I've been looking at reviews for something that's somewhat affordable, somewhat decent. And I came across this one, and this one ranges from around, I think it's $300. If you guys are, if you guys are ever interested in getting one. And, yeah, so it ranges around $300. So I'm not sure if it's worth it from what I've seen, reviews, all that, this and that, whatever you see on Amazon. It seems useful, or it seems okay. So I'm going to give it a shot today, and if anything goes wrong, let's hope it's on me and not this. Because I did notice it came in like a cardboard box, obviously, but it didn't. It almost seemed like it was packaged. It was just packaged really bad, and the only thing they capped off with plywood was the top, and even that seemed like somewhere I got hit and it pushed down, unless that's how it is, because this kind of seems like it's a little slimy. Right here, it definitely got nipped on the side, so I'm hoping it didn't push in the pot. Maybe it just made like a little, a little dent right here where the handle is. But if it pushed in the pop, it might ruin the seal. So when I go to push in air, it might leak. And if it leaks, nothing really is going to happen. But it's ideal that that doesn't happen. So hopefully none of that happens. We're going to go in with this first, and then we'll move on to this. But first off, I'm going to explain to you guys what kind of resin I use. I feel like that's also very important. I'm going to put gloves on because these things are kind of dirty. Oh, and so you guys know, if you, for some reason you do want to purchase a big ass pressure pot for some reason, this thing is a 5-gallon. I got it on Amazon. I can't remember what brand it is. I'm sure it's somewhere here on the label. There's a label somewhere here that says what kind of brand it is. But yeah, it's like, if you'll find it, if you go on Amazon, you put in pressure pot 5-gallon, this will come up. So if for some reason you do want to get one. And yeah. So obviously if you're getting a pressure pot, you need a compressor, right? So I have my compressor hooked up outside with a line that runs into my shop on a little hose reel. So that's why you won't hear any noise when the compressor goes on. Don't look at that. You didn't see it. Yeah. So this is what the compressor reel is connected to, another little hose, windy hose, and it's connected to a little air nozzle, but we're gonna take that off. And this tip is obviously what we're gonna be using in here. So I'm just gonna get that ready. Where's my resin? Oh my god, I thought about it. I just ran out before the live stream. I was like, shoot, it's gonna be one quick live stream. Okay, so first off, I think I'm gonna explain what kind of resin this is. This resin is labeled TC808 rigid urethane. I just call it 808. It's obviously a resin, and when it says rigid, that means it's hard. It's not flexible. You'll see like flexible urethanes, and I don't know if it's labeled flexible, but definitely if it's labeled rigid, that means it's it's a solid piece. So if you're expecting to get something, that has a little pull on it, like it, definitely don't get this, because as soon as you bend it, it's gonna snap off. Not saying that this stuff is crap. It's actually really useful for mass production, but for certain pieces of a certain sculpture, if it's really thin, you kind of want to go for something a little bit more flexible. There is some rigid, semi-rigid urethanes, and those are kind of ideal for areas like that, because like let's say you were to drop something thin, it won't crack, or at least if you want to break it, it's going to take a lot for it to snap. So for something like, so these are my examples for you guys. These are my little Frankensteins, and if you guys can't see, also let me know. I'll zoom in a little bit. I hope that doesn't become an issue. I tried to get like a good distance so you guys can see and I can talk. I mean, I was just gonna crop it right here, but I didn't know if that was gonna look right. So if that does become something you guys want, I'll just lower it down and zoom in. But yeah, so these are my little Godzillas. Here, I'm gonna show you guys up front. But yeah, so you see these guys? These are my Godzillas. I don't know if there's any terrible lighting, but yeah, these are some sculptures I did back in the day, a long time ago. And I still cast these and I still sell them because people seem to like them. They're a little bit outdated for my art, but when people like something, I tend not to take it off the market too soon. Usually I'll wait like maybe a couple years. But this one's definitely coming off within the next 2 years. But yeah, with this guy, he's all solid. So his head's solid. So first off, he's 3 separate pieces, and each piece is a solid piece. His head, then you have his jaw, and then you have the base. So I'm going to mold every single individual part to take you guys through that whole step. But to kind of explain a little bit of how you go about casting, you kind of have to backtrack a little bit to the mold making and then the sculpture. So usually when I'm working on a sculpture, I'm kind of, planning for when I'm casting, because I've done both. I've sculpted, I've molded, and I've done all 3. So I've sculpted, I molded, I casted. So if I'm going to mold something, if I'm going to cast something, I have to be aware when I'm sculpting, how hard am I making it for myself in the future. So for something like this, right? He has little canines right here. See if you guys can see these little canines right here that protrude outwards. So because they protrude outwards, if I cast it like this, I might get little bubbles. So I need to give all these teeth right here some space. And another thing is his mouth. His mouth's a little bit open, right? There's a little bit of a gap. If I were to seal it, it'll kind of look funny and it'll kind of look cheap. So to give that illusion that it's like an open mouth that's closed and there's that kind of hollowness, like in a normal person, or like you can compare it to like a canine's mouth. You have that, you have the roof of the mouth, you have the bottom where the tongue is, and you have the throat. So you want to kind of have that hollowness look to it. So you can't mold this like this. You can't sculpt it in one piece and mold it like this, because there's no way you'll be able to achieve casting this. There's no way you'll be able to accomplish it. When you go to mold it, the silicone will run inside the mouth, fill it up, and turn it into a key. So when you try to pull out the sculpture, you might be able to get the sculpture out. But when you go to cast, the liquid would fill in over that little bubble and it'll latch on. So when you go to pull it, it'll rip the whole thing out. So that's kind of, an over explanation of how I go about, separating pieces. But yeah, so because of that, I'll have to separate the jaw, make that an entirely separate piece. And that's the only way I'll be able to accomplish all that. So that's what I mean by kind of preparing while you're sculpting so that when you go to mold it, it's easier to cast. So that's why with this piece, I have two separate molds. I have the head, and then I got the jaw. And then, of course, the third mold, which is the base. This one's a lot easier to cast. I'll go about explaining the whole process right now. But, yeah, that's to kind of give you guys an understanding of how I work in my sculptures, how I prepare during my sculptures to make casting easy. Because casting is hard as it is. So to kind of prepare before that is the only way to make this kind of a bearable task. Because I have had my fair share of shitty molds. I'm going to move this back over here. You guys have looked at this enough. Oh, and sorry if my voice is a little raspy or kind of low. I've been having allergies all week and my throat's just kind of jacked up. So I'm kind of speaking like a, audiobook narrator. So, yeah. What was I saying? I have no idea what I was saying. But yeah, casting is it's a difficult task. So trying to minimize as many complications ahead of time is the only way to help make this a bearable task. And, I've had my fair share of shitty molds. I mean, they're out there. They come and go, whether they're made by me or whether, they were given to me. It's going to come along your way. But, hold on. Give me one second. One second. One second. I forgot to do something real quick. I just want to make sure I don't forget. Okay. So going back to the material. I use, so this is called 808. It's a rigid material and it's black tinted. So you can go ahead and get like a white 808 where it's just like a blank color. And then that's the compressor going off. That's, it has like a little air escape. So if I leave it on overnight, it's not this giant bomb waiting to get penetrated and explode. So it'll leak a little bit and then it'll just go on its own. But anyways, so I'm using black tint. It's meaning it already comes tinted, which is great. I don't have to go through the process of, weighing out the whole bucket and weighing out black tint. That's gonna go off a few times. So hopefully I'm gonna make this a little entertaining, and kind of show you guys the step-by-step process without boring you guys too much. Because this is This is probably the boringest part of all this stuff. To some extent. I mean, it could be fun. Experimenting, in my opinion, is really fun. I like the first casting and I like the last casting. But, the 100th casting, the 200th casting, It gets a little old because you're constantly knocking them out. And I haven't done this Godzilla in a while, so I'm kind of excited. It's like doing it for the first time. So, this is going to be fun, but at the same time, it's not very entertaining. But I do want to show you guys, all the parts of, all the mediums of this genre of art. So, I'm going to move this out of the way. This big bulky shit. Oh, shit. And make sure I have everything, because once you get going, you got to get going. This stuff starts kicking, so you want to make sure everything's in place. So, okay, I'm going to start straight from the beginning. Step 1 in casting. Make sure everything's organized. Make sure your space is clean, because I don't want to be knocking things over. I don't want to be spilling on my shoes. I don't want to be spilling on my shirt. I don't want to be spilling on nothing. And I thought I brought this out because I wanted to show you guys what clear resin's kind of used for. So this was casted in a pressure pot, this clear resin, and it was painted in certain areas black. It's not done. I need to go over with another coat of black in certain areas, but I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little LED inside, and when it turns on, it glows the blue, and it kind of gives this effect of it lighting up. And yeah, so that's what clear resin's for. But another thing about clear resin, okay, so with this material, this takes around 5 minutes to kick. No, it's like 3 minutes. I can't remember the time. It's like 2 minutes to kick, and it cures in like 5-10 minutes. With clear, you're looking at about 6 to 12 to sometimes even 24 hours to cure. That's the difference, and that's why rigid is so useful, especially with mass producing. And yeah, so all right, so yeah, step 1 of all this is make sure everything's organized, your whole area is ready to go. I don't want to be knocking things over. I would definitely like rushed mold or rushed castings, because I like go to mix it, and then I realize I have the wrong mold, so I go back, grab the other one, or I'm missing a mold, go back, grab the other one. By the time I come back, it's like all like tar, and I still go to pour it because I feel like I have enough time, and then it comes out piece of shit. So don't waste your time. Make sure everything's clear. Also, this is a food scale. You can get a better scale, but this is like a little food scale. It's good for the amount of material I use. It's not like I'm trying to weigh out like 50, 60 pounds. This is, I'm weighing by grams. This would be a good scale for a drug dealer. So, how you mold it, or how you go about weighing out, is you get your cup, set it on top, right? Then you press tear, and what that does is it brings it back to 0. So it cancels out the weight of the cup. So now instead of measuring with the cup, you measure just the materials. All right, so step 2, you got everything ready, you got everything set, you got to powder your molds, because if you don't, you could essentially, you'll start tearing away at the mold a lot quicker. It'll start, because it's like the resins, okay, so baby powdering it helps the material reach all corners, but it also helps release it. So it's like a releasing agent, but it also helps get all that detail. If you don't put it, you'll get a good casting. Obviously, that's how you cast with clears. You don't use baby powder, otherwise it'll affect the cure. But you do want to keep it as you do want to maintain your mold. So you got to make sure when you're using urethanes to use something, whether it's like a release spray or powder. If you can't use either or, just know it's not going to last as long. But there's definitely certain molds where I need a cast without baby powder, without any of that stuff, and they come out, But sometimes, especially if you leave it overnight, when you go to pull in the morning, it could just rip out all the silicone. And it's happened to me twice, and it's a horrible feeling, especially when like each of these costs, like a mold like this costs around like, I would say like $35-40, which might not seem like a lot for a mold that you just mass produce, but it takes 24 hours to cure, because this silicone takes around 24 hours to cure. It's a long ass time. And when you rip one of these, it just sucks because you got to wait like another day or two, depending on, you know, when you do it to jump back and start casting again. So, that said, I'm going to start powdering this shit. You can use all kinds of powder. Some people use scented powder. I don't. You only need a little bit. So put the powder in, close it up. Slap it. Get it everywhere. And then I kind of like dump out the first batch, because I don't want to blow baby powder everywhere. Then just set that aside, move on to the next one. Powder that shit up. And I'm powdering it to hell because I'm not using any machine. And this is to kind of show people that, you know, want to cast, but they don't want to spend the money to get a compressor and get a machine and all, you know, all that stuff. You can do it by hand. I did it by hand for a long time. Mold's way more sophisticated than this. So, so yeah. But this is kind of, you know, the way to go. Sorry, guys. All right. What time is it? It's been 30 minutes. I haven't casted shit. So if you're back playing this, just skip forward a little bit. All right? Bear with me. So now I got them powdered up. You're gonna need one of these, or if you have like a little can one, that's fine too. Also, just taking off any little like surface pieces. That's gonna come in handy later on. Also, you don't want to breathe baby powder. That's why I'm holding my nose. Oh no. Oh no. And you want to get as much out as possible. As much, if not all. Trust me, you don't need to have like a thick layer of baby powder. The compressor's probably going to go off right now too. So yeah, just like all live streams, it's going to be a 2-hour live stream. So I'm going to try to get through this as much as possible. Probably only be able to get 2 castings out. 1, because I'm explaining, and 2, because I'm explaining, so I might not have enough time to get through all of it, which is fine. Okay, so rule of thumb with casting by hand is you wear 2 gloves. I'll show you why in a bit. Just listen to that rule of thumb. 2 gloves. I have 1 extended out, and then I have 1 way in front of it, so I can peel it off whenever I want. It's not getting, you know, mixed up with the one behind it, right? Okay. So I'm gonna get my rubby bands. Oh, it was almost a disaster. Make sure they're closed up right. Get the seams closed up properly. Okay, get my rubber bands, put them aside. You're not going to need them now. Yeah, you're definitely not going to need the rubber bands now. So just have them ready. Because you're going to need to get in there. So if the rubber band is keeping it from opening up, it's going to be a lot tougher to get your finger in there and rub it around, you know? So, alright, I think I'm ready. I'm going to turn this thing on. Mix up your urethane because they start to separate. This one especially, mix this one up. So with this one, when you start mixing it up, it starts getting a little frothy. You see? Becomes kind of like Mountain Dew. Doesn't taste like Mountain Dew. And you kind of want to like mix it up, and then start letting it set. Because all those bubbles, especially if when you're doing it by hand. If you're using that thing, it doesn't matter. But by hand, you want to let that set a little bit after mixing it. Otherwise, when you go to pour, it'll have a lot more. I guess the internal structure will be a lot more, I guess, holy, like bubbly, which can cause certain small pieces to break off. So you want to have, when you're doing it by hand, you want to have it as the material as dense as possible. So kind of let it set to get rid of all those little frothy bubbles. Then I'm gonna mix this thing to hell. Don't use my left hand all too often. But there you go. All right, got my cup, got my sticks. So sometimes these things get a little stuck. No, it's fine. All right, so you want to start with the clear. Why? I don't know. It's kind of been my rule of thumb. I start with the clear because usually the clear side, or it's not clear, it's piss yellow, but it's a lot thinner, right? This is a lot thicker, and it's if you put the thick material first, it's kind of harder to scrape off the sides. And you want to make sure everything gets incorporated. This is thin, like. This one's thin, almost like, I don't know, like juice. And this is thick, almost like melted ice cream. So yeah, putting the thick one last kind of helps incorporate all of the materials a lot easier. And you do have a little bit of working time once you pour. Really see that chemical reaction. That's nice. So I'm being over delicate here. I'm weighing out 50-50, right? So this is a 1-to-1 ratio material. So 50%, 50% together equals 100%. So right now I'm, ironically weighing 50 grams out. So 50 grams of this, 50 grams of that. That equals to 100 grams, and that's going to cover the head and the jaw. And then I need a towel. I want to keep my hands as clean as possible. At least the first glove. The second glove doesn't matter. But yeah, I usually have like a towel here around, just in case of a spill or a mess. You see what I mean by I have working time? It's not incorporated yet. It hasn't mixed itself together. So there's no rush to hurry up. The time hasn't started kicking. It will kick though. If you give it like 2 minutes, it'll start to cure and give like a nice little potato chip right in the middle where it's touching. But now it's time to start. So, gotta have a trash can near you. This is gonna be a big mess. There you go. I usually wax my surface too, so I can start like scraping it off once everything starts to cure. For mixing, I usually go about 20 seconds, mixing the middle, scraping the sides. That's what I mean by this stuff is so thin. It's kind of like try mixing water. It won't go as well as you think. All right, dump that in there, and then I'm gonna dump a little bit in there first, right? I'm gonna open this up. Hopefully I make it, because this isn't really an explaining how to do mold. This is a hurry the fuck up and before this thing cures kind of mold, because I gotta get all that detail in there. I think it's really hard. It's really hard. Yeah. And this is like a good way to also understand your sculpture. As being the one that sculpted this, I know what I'm looking out for. I know what I'm trying to avoid, because I did this piece. I know what overlaps. I know what details are hard to get. So I pour a little bit more in there. I start to spin it, trying to get all the pieces, all the sides, all the tips, and then I flip it like this because I want to get the canines. Because I'm understanding that the canines are flipped upside down. So what I'm trying to do is flip it back, and then I fill this in all the way. Right? All the way to the brim. Take a little pop, and then I'm gonna mix it again. It is kind of warm in here, so this stuff is kicking a lot quicker than usual, which isn't ideal in any way. Okay. So yeah, I was only able to get the head. I thought I measured. Oh no, it was 30-30. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I haven't casted this sculpture in a long time. And there, see, now you have a fresh glove to grab whatever you want, clean up, without having all that mess. And sometimes, so this one kind of needs another rubber band. It seems like the seam on the mold is opening up. That's fine. Don't freak out. Just do what you gotta do. Make sure it's everything you need it to be. See? That's good. And set it aside. Keep this one up for the next one. So this one's okay to move, but usually when you're doing a flat surface, like for example this one, you don't want to be like shaking everything and moving everything, because it'll start to like wave out, and while it's curing, it'll become like, a wave frozen in time. And that's terrible. You don't want that. You don't want to screw up your sculpture like that, or your casting like that. But yeah, that's one. It's a pretty simple mold. Also, because I've been doing it for so long, I understand the tricky parts already. And when you do a mold long enough and you're trying to understand the tricky parts, you start to go after those parts first. So when it starts to cure, you're not like stressing over those areas. You know that you incorporated all the material into those cracks and stuff and crevices, and everything looks good. So here's a different type of casting from a different type of mold. So imagine this mold, right? This is considered a block mold, meaning there's no fiberglass walls. That's usually called a brush-up mold or a matrix mold. But this is a pretty massive block mold. Just imagine this, but this tall and this big. It probably weighs around 50 pounds. And this is inside of it. Obviously, this is my Frankenstein. You guys have seen it before, my other live streams when I filmed painting it. And he's got a blemish. It's fine. But this one's a solid one. I did this one very similar to this, but that's because this is my master copy. Master copy is a copy you don't sell. It's a copy you don't tamper with, you don't mess with. It's the one you keep forever. And that's why I made it solid, because it'll stay with me as long as, brick of this urethane rots, which might not be ever in my lifetime. So that's why I make it solid. Usually it has a thin wall. It's a slush mold. So it's kind of similar. Imagine this, but midway through curing, I flip it upside down and I drain out, the solid area. So it becomes a thin wall. Not a thin wall. It's pretty thick, but it doesn't use up all the material. This is, let's see how heavy this is. Let me use my board tire. Turn on. So that's 1,212 grams. That's a lot, right? So 1,212 grams compared to, this is a hollow one, 430 grams. So, it's a big difference. It's over 600 grams more. 600 grams more? Or 900 grams more? I think it's like 900 grams more, something like that. Yeah, that's a big difference. Big difference in material, because that essentially, if it's 900 grams more, let's just say, I can't remember what it was before. So let's say it's 900 grams more. That's essentially a little over 2 more of these. So with this one, you can get 3 of these. So on a business standpoint, business perspective, this is more profitable. And that's why I would do it hollow like this. This one, on the other hand, it's so tiny, it's so small. If I did want to do it hollow, it would be a waste, especially because it will probably crack trying to pull it out. So there's no need. Plus, it'll make it feel cheap. This, on the other hand, this is solid because of how big it is. This thing, if I dropped it, it wouldn't break. Just like this one. So, this thing, if I drop it, it probably would break because it's so heavy, it'll smack the floor and crack in half. But yeah. And then, there's other techniques to casting too. It's not just this. It's not just that. There's other ways. There's other material, and there's just this whole universe of material and techniques to use when casting. But this is the best of what I can use for these molds. Obviously, I don't want to, spend crazy amounts of money on crazy material that don't make a big difference. I mass produce. If I was doing like a custom one for someone, the casting would be different, the painting would be different. It would just be a whole nother ballpark. But as far as mass producing product, this is the direction I go with. Like if I was making, and this is thinking big, if I was making a one-off for someone, and they paid whatever they wanted for this, just this, these sculptures I sell for $45 to $50, depending on the paint job. And if someone wanted to spend, whatever, like let's say $400 on one of these, the sky's the limit. If it's a one-off and I have to do it specifically just for them, it would be completely different. I'd be using, powdered metals for the resin, or I'd cast a wax one, make a metal mold and cast it out of metal, or I would separate the gum and the teeth, make it clear so it's more like our teeth, because our teeth kind of has like a layer of sheen to it, and it's layer after layer after layer when it comes to our teeth, and that's what gives it that illusion. You can't just cast something you can't cast like a white tooth and then spray it with some crystal clear and call that a tooth. To some degree it might come off as realistic, but if you were to compare it with a normal tooth, you can see all the layers that go into it. There's pinks, there's yellows. So essentially that's what I would do with like something like this. And that's the level you can get to if you want to. Obviously, I don't want to for something like this. If I'm going to go that extra mile, it'll be probably with the big-ass Godzilla, which with that one I do have a lot of intentions of using a lot of different kinds and unique materials for that one in different molding methods. That one's going to be broken down into so many pieces, it gives me a headache. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about my massive Godzilla sculpture. I mean, I don't want to bring it, it's just too big. But look on my website, or look on beneath you at all the other videos. You'll see me doing it live. But yeah, with that one, oh my god, I have so many things I need to do to mold it, and so many things I want to do when casting and painting it. That one's gonna be a fun one, but I gave myself 4 months to finish it because, lucky me, things are opening back up, and I'm super excited. I think if you don't know, I do like events, like conventions, I guess. And the next one that's coming up is in September for Son of Monster Palooza, which I haven't done in 2 years. which is crazy. That's how long I've been, taken from my art shows. It sucks, but it's coming back. I think my last Sunapalooza was 2019. That's crazy to think about. So that's going to be the first one coming back, and then I have Monsterpalooza after that, and then WonderCon. And then I'm trying to get some in between, trying to shoot for DesignerCon. But there's a whole lot of weird things that happened with that one before COVID, so don't know if I'm going to be able to get a booth, but we'll see. But yeah, I got to start finishing a lot of stuff here, casting a lot of stuff here. And that's why I'm doing this video, because technically working right now. Well, making a nice entertaining video for you guys. So this is about a third of the way cured, which is perfect. And I'll show you guys why. So gently, don't do what I just did. Try to rip it open. Yeah, so I definitely didn't put enough baby powder on the cut line, the seam line. Okay, so this is really green, so I gotta be careful. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's the term I use when something's not fully cured. I call it green. It's a little green, a little fresh. You can see this mess of a seam line. That's 100% because this thing didn't line up. There's like a little lip in here because I cut it in order to get the teeth. It's a whole process I don't want to get into right now. Okay, I'll get into it. So with the teeth, since they're so sharp, you have to give a little cut at the end so the material flows past the end of the tooth. Otherwise, it'll hit the tip of the tooth and it'll leave a bubble there. It'll trap a bubble there. So when I went to go cut the tooth, I cut off a little piece that now it overhangs, and I have to kind of put it back in when I mold it. So the fact that it overhang when I closed it, you can see a little bit, it didn't close all the way. And even the rubber bands couldn't put it back in. So that's why it was such a big gap. But all I gotta do is get the material out of there, and then just put it back into place. Yep, it doesn't want to because there's material in the way. Yeah, that's one of the things about mold making is if you do a bad cut, it'll affect you for many, many castings. Okay. So, but even though this seam line looks crazy, just pull it off. Especially if you do a good cut, all this stuff should come off fairly easily. Try not to pull it too cured or too green, because you might end up messing up some areas. This one seems to not have been affected. I think I pulled it out at the right time. But like something like this, this is a resin. This is thick plastic. But since it is frozen, oh no, since it is still a little soft, I can go in with scissors and snip it off. Now, if I try to do that when it's fully cured, you bet that's not happening. I mean, maybe, but it'll crack. So God knows what you'll bring with it. That's why I like to pull it cured. It's just time management, trying to make things as easy as possible, trying to worry about yourself for the future, because no one's going to worry about you, so you got to worry about yourself. So that's what I mean when you're sculpting, you're worrying about your future self. So when you're molding, you're worrying about your future self. When you're casting, you're worrying about your future self, because now when I go to clean this all up and sand it and wash it, because you got to wash it before you paint it, otherwise the paint might start peeling off. So you're just always worrying about your future self to make it as easy as possible. And that's one technique that I picked up with these guys. So yeah, here I'm going to show you up close. Oh yeah. Put the light on it. So yeah. So that's one. Let's see. Sometimes I'll get the smallest areas and I'll kind of poke at them and see if I got any air bubbles. because then I'll have to go in and clean that and patch it up. So this one seems to be great. The canines came in. No air bubbles on the canines, which is something that you have to practice on this one to not get. Oh, good, I brought the microphone. Okay. So yeah, this one's great. No issues, no nothing. This one's perfect. So usually with castings like this, I kind of categorize them as show pieces and as sellable pieces. Sellable pieces is kind of the nice way of saying it's shit, but you can probably still sell it if you fix it up. And those pieces I tend to not bring to big art events because it kind of tampers with my reputation, whether, I sell it or not. Usually the sellable pieces, I'll sell at like little conventions or little art walks, and I'll sell them at a lower price. Like these, like cleaned up, really nice, I'll sell at Monsterpalooza for like $55, right? As to, a small art walk where I bring out the okay pieces and I'll sell those for $40. And these sell really good at art conventions, and that's why I don't want to bring them off the market yet, but I think it's about time because his big daddy's coming pretty soon. But yeah. And that being said, if he's coming off the market pretty soon, you guys should get yourself one. You never know; it could come off tomorrow, it can come off the next day. So just letting you guys know, But yeah. On to the next one. I think the next one I'll do with the stupid pot. It's overkill, but who cares? So yeah, I'm gonna set this aside. This is a showpiece, and now time to bring the big daddy. Big daddy, come here. Son of a bitch. This one comes with wheels, and yes, I do cast it when it has wheels on the floor, but I brought it up here to show you guys. And if it had wheels, it would just, one mistake and it falls right off the table. So I'm an idiot. You gotta first unscrew the big wing nuts. Right? And I tend to kind of, see, I over unscrewed it because time is of the essence when doing these. So I kind of screw it at the end, right where it almost touches, where I can kind of bring it back in, where it's the closest to actually screwing it shut. Because there's so much time, you can't just be like, it's like trying to screw it back in. You really gotta help yourself, worry about yourself. All right. So this, before I take this off, this I usually prep. So shut the nozzle, right? Get your hose, right? Smack that shit on. Come on, right? Now it's prepped. If I were to do it after the fact, I'd be like, oh shit. And then if this thing is open and I close this and I don't realize it, the gauge will start going up. Another thing about these pressure pots, before you buy one to understand, this is a bomb if you don't use it properly. So you have a gauge right here, right? It's a little meter that shows you where you're going. There's usually a warning on here that says how far your PSI can go. Oh yeah. Okay, so the max pressure PSI is 80. I usually do 60, and if it's really small, I'll do 40. That's a very important thing to understand. Is if you pass 80, you created a bomb. I've had one overinflate on me, and that's because I wasn't paying attention to the gauge. I was just kind of focused on getting everything on, screwing everything on, and this was running. And I was screwing everything on, and as I was screwing things on, it went boom, and it kind of like popped up a little bit, kind of rolled on its side, because the bottom, is flat. It went, and it turned into like a little half ball. and started rolling like that. So I unplugged it and I freaked out and I was like, oh my god, if this thing would have blew up in my face, it would have killed me. So don't do that. Be aware. That's why I tell you to make sure this is on before you do anything, so you know that this is off. Okay, so now I have this. I'm gonna set this aside. So I have a whole hour to kind of show you guys. So I might do another. I'm probably gonna do another Godzilla while I'm at it, because this is so quick that I can do all this in one shot, and that's kind of the whole point. That's what makes it efficient. So I'm actually gonna have to take this off again because I need to repowder this one and blow it out. Also, don't do what I'm doing. Don't touch your mold, your hand. Don't touch your urethane infested mold with your hands. I do it because this is my shop and no one can tell me no. But if you're working for someone, don't risk their business over your incompetence. But if you're on your own, I don't give a shit. Okay. Yeah. Luckily, I'm in a very vented area, so none of these chemicals are getting to me. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna kill myself in a couple of years because of these chemicals. But yeah. When you're doing this stuff, please be in a vented area. Usually I'll have that door open, but I don't want mosquitoes getting in here right now, or flies, so I have it closed. But when I'm done with this, I'll open that shit up and let it air out. Yeah, technically when I do cast, I do have that up, and that's because number one, my mental and physical health, and then number two, I don't want my shop smelling like urethane for 2 days, because if you don't do this, if you don't ventilate it, it'll reek. Your whole shop will reek for a couple days, so I don't want that. I really don't. So I'm gonna air this out afterwards. Or if you don't have a place to air out, if you're doing it in a bedroom or something, wear a respirator. I have this one. This is a very old respirator. I think I need to change out the filters. But yeah, you'll wear something like this. The reason I'm not wearing it is because there's more dust in here than out here. So it's just gonna make me cough and sneeze. I'm already dealing with allergies. That's why I can barely speak this whole live stream. All right. So make sure this thing is how it's supposed to be. Dumb piece of crap. Come on. Yeah, that's another reason I'm gonna retire this mold really soon. Shit. Oh, no, that's right. I forgot. All right. So get your molds. Make them all nice and pretty. Get them in here. Right. Actually, I'm gonna do this one last, and there's a few reasons why. You can't just rely on this all the time. There's certain things you have to do before you just dump everything in here. All right. Got a little rubber band for my little jaw. Last rubber band for my last mold. Shut up. Okay. So these two are fine. I can put these in here. No problemo. Right? Don't fall over, I swear. Don't you fall over. What's great about this pressure pot is it has a flat bottom. Usually some have like a little like bump or a little under reverse bump, and you have to put like a piece of wood in there to make sure everything's stable. Either way, you should put a piece of wood in here, which I'm going to in case it spills. You know, I want my pressure pot to last. I don't want it to look like a huge mess. So, put a nice piece of wood in there, preferably round, but work with what you got. Okay. Now we're gonna go through the whole process again, except I'm gonna weigh out for every single mold. Correcto. Don't think this is leveled out, which might be an issue for the one base mold, but this is just a test run. Okay. So last time I weighed out, the head was 50-50, so it was 100 grams for this one. Stop. The jaw, I believe, is 10 grams in total, maybe 20. And then the base is, I think, 15, so 30. So 30, maybe 10, and then 50. So I'm just going to weigh out a little bit extra. So I said that all wrong. So 30, 20, 50, 100. Okay, keep that in mind. So we're going to start off with, and then see, we got 50, 65, and then 5. So I'll add another one. So I'm just going to weigh out 80 just to be safe. I know that's a little overboard, but rather go over than under. And then, try not to weigh out the entire 5-gallon drum. Obviously that's too much. That's 87. Yeah, sometimes I'm really good at weighing out to the final dot, and sometimes not. And you don't have to weigh out like perfect amount. That's ridiculous. But do weigh out within, 2 grams. And if it's like bigger, if you're over like 5, that's fine. But rule of thumb is try not to go over 2 grams difference. Where's freaking rag? It's right here. So loud. Stop. Okay, so there's 80. Now let's do another 80. Right. Right. Stop. Just stop. Tear it. Weigh out another 80. 40 and 54, 56, 60, 68, 70. Try to get to the 80 without going over. This is the hardest part because once you go back, you can never go back. Okay, that's 82. So that's 1 gram over because the other one I weighed out 81. So that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So fall over like that, right? All right. Let's get my popsicle stick. And this is the part you gotta start rushing. And please, when you're mixing and you're using a pressure pot, once everything's incorporated and you got everything in there, take your gloves off. Don't keep using the pressure pot with your dirty gloves. I worked in so many work environments where that was the case, and there's so much urethane, so much resin on all the wing nuts. It was disgusting. It was pissing me off. It's in the past. So, first things first, I'm gonna get the hardest one out of the way. Over thumb. So, like I said, with this one, I gotta watch out for the canines. So whether or not that pressure pot is really good or not, I'm still going to take care of that issue. Right? Mix it around, get it in there. There, filled. Drop it in. Drop it in. Usually you'll just drop it in. You'll pour it as it's in, but I don't want to risk that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, that's a mess. All right, put that in. With this one, the base really needs to be flushed, so I'm just gonna do that. Right? Freak. And this is what I mean about, getting all nervous. You're gonna get nervous, you're gonna mess up a little bit, but don't give up. Just keep going. You never know. It could be the best one of them all. But you gave up too soon to find out. So, see what I mean? how the back ones took way longer to tighten than these guys. These guys are taking hardly any time. You gotta make sure they're freaking tight. I swear to God, make sure they're freaking tight. This is your life. Make sure they're tight. Let some air go in. Now I'm watching how it's gauging out. So it's at 10 right now. It's at 15. It's at 20. The max is 80, right? Okay. Now we're at 30. We're gonna go to 40, and I'm gonna take it to 40 and stop. All right. Actually, I'm gonna take it to 50. Taking it to 50, so I'm not risking shit. All right. Take it off. As soon as you're done, as soon as the air, it's in, put the air in, you take this off. Because for some reason, you end up flipping this thing on, and it's at 80. Let's say it's at 80. It's at the max. You stop there, right? You flip this thing on. It's going to keep going, and it's going to... Don't do that. Just take it off. Move on with your life. Don't touch this. This is a freaking bomb. Just leave it alone. Move on with your life. Did this thing freaking cure? Let's hope I got the bubbles out. So that's the thing about 808. It cures so fast. If your working time is slow, this isn't gonna work for you, right? You should be doing one by one. In my case, trying to explain it to you guys kind of helps slow down the process, but I've definitely used these a lot. I haven't had issues of it curing before I put it in, which is great. So the only thing I can suggest, if you do want to use these, let's say like you make like 3 molds of one figure, which I've done before, like my Frankenstein magnets. I don't know if you guys even know about those. They're another product I sell pretty often. It's like a half-face Frankenstein magnet, and I have like four molds of those. With that, like, you know, I could pour all those in, stick it in this thing, and then, you know, turn this shit on and go work on something else, and then come back and peel it off. But if this isn't working for me, let's say I'm not fast enough, which you should be, especially with something very simple like that, I would have to do each one by hand. You know, go scrub it in, pour it with a little popsicle stick, like clean the edges, and then you call it a day with that one. But in this case, you know, this thing helps. I shouldn't even be messing with this. 1, because the base needs a flat surface, and 2, because, you know, you never want to mess with this. What's great about this pressure pot, and what I haven't seen in others, or in some I've used, most of them have this, but they have this massive wing nut, and it's fantastic. 1, because it's easier to tighten. The ones where I worked had these little small wing nuts that you had to tighten. There's so many of them. It was this big, and there was like maybe 6 wing nuts I had to tighten, and I would get like a wrench. I'd get this stupid thing, and I'd, you know, it was so small it'd fit through the wrench hole, and I'd use it and I'd tighten it, and I'd use it to tighten all of it. And, you know, it's been a while since I've done this stuff, so I'm kind of a little slow. But even with these big wing nuts, I think I missed my mark. But yeah, I would literally cast with those stupid ass pressure pots. So I don't know what my point was. When I start talking shit, I just forget about everything else. But yeah, so that's what's great about these, is they have these nice big wing nuts and this little lip right here, so this thing can't slide off for any reason. Like, it's locked in there. Even if I didn't tighten this all the way and it was leaking air, I wouldn't be afraid. With the other ones, I'd be petrified. I'd be like, fuck, this thing's gonna blow up. But no, this is great. I trust this. I trust this so much. I'm gonna scratch myself back here. So yeah, amazing tool. Just amazing tool. You can even see like how long that took me as to just casting one of the Godzilla heads. How much time I took, because obviously it's gonna take the same amount of time to cure. But like, all I needed to do was do that, shove this shit in there, and walk away. But in this case, I have to stay here and wait. But yeah. So usually don't throw your cup away like I just did, right? Get your cup, have it set aside, get a popsicle stick, poke that shit secured, throw that shit away. It's done, right? So there's a couple ways to release the air. You know, you can, turn this hatch and all the air starts shooting out, or you can kind of let it out a little bit with this one. All right? And then you start letting this one out. Just give it a little time. And do not open this thing while the air is still flowing. If you still hear the whistle, this stays closed. Because remember, this is a bomb. If you release this and you give this escape, it'll pop off on one side. I know I keep explaining this like this is something so deadly, but with every tool, whether it's a table saw, chop saw, a drill, a knife, a kitchen knife, you got to be as careful as possible. And something this big that'll literally blow your face off, yeah, you got to be careful. I'll touch, make sure there's no air, pull a little bit here, make sure there's no air, and then when you know it's good to go, you can start unscrewing these massive wing nuts. Like I said, for future stuff, I like to save myself the trouble. Unscrew it to the minimal. You need to unscrew it so it can come off. You don't have to overdo it. The only complaint I have with this stupid thing is this thing nips the wing nut a little bit. It's not a big deal, but why couldn't this be a little bit over here? My only complaint is this stupid thing so far. Okay. Now release this thing, and then hopefully you have a beautiful piece. It smells like shit. It's not fully cured, just by looking at it. I could probably take the head out. Now I'll leave it in there a little bit more. I just want to be 100% sure. But yeah, once it's cured, this thing can open up. There's no need to leave this overnight or whatever. If it's cured and you still have the pressure in there, it's not doing anything. It's not making it any better. Yeah, just take it off. And just let it sit. So, and don't touch your... I'm sorry. My allergies are just kicking in. But yeah. And that's why I explained earlier that this part is the least extravagant. But if you have a pressure pot, my God, how great it is. It almost makes it worth casting, Casting by hand has always been a pain of ass for me. I love it. Like, I love everything, every aspect of this, but it is my least favorite thing to do. But I do it because I like it. I don't know how to explain it. It's a love-hate relationship. I think because my profession, before I started doing my own stuff, was just casting. And I think that's what soured it. And it wasn't just like, casting 1, 2 things a day, 4 things a day, 5 things a day, 10 things a day. I was casting shit tons of things a day. Sometimes 50, sometimes more. I did foam latex for a year, and I did urethane for a year. That doesn't seem like a lot of time. That's because it's not. But when I did it every day, sometimes weekends, there was a good chance it was weekends, because for some reason, everybody needed things on weekends, which is fun, actually. I loved working weekends. That's the least of my complaints. I loved working weekends. That's because no one was hardly there. It was just you, and you could just work and enjoy your craft. But yeah, I definitely was casting a substantial amount of stuff throughout the week and for a good year. And I think after that, not that I disliked it, because I definitely don't dislike it. Like I said, it's just the least exciting thing to do in this medium. But I definitely didn't want to rush to go back into it, if that makes sense. I wanted to, focus on my sculptures. Like, that's something, like, I've been sculpting, I've been an independent artist for the past, September? No, October, late October, so somewhere around November, and I've been sculpting every single day. I don't think I've missed a day. That's a lie. I probably missed a couple days when I first started because I was building this stupid shed. And that's not stupid. I say that with, a grain of salt. Or take that with a grain of salt. Like, I've been working on this studio. I don't know why I say shed. This is not a shed. This is a freaking massive ass work of art. But yeah, I've been working on the studio for a good. I worked on it for a good 2 months, and I'm still working on it. Like I said, back there needs to get finished. But I've been working on my art for a good chunk of time, consistently, and I prefer to do that. On top of the fact that without a sculpture, there's nothing to mass produce. That's obviously the biggest part of all this. But I like sculpting. But once that sculpture's done, I am going to take a break. I'm definitely going to jump back on another sculpture immediately, but it's not going to be as intensive a workout as that one is. Because that one I spend every single day, even though it should be done by now, but that's also my fault because I keep going back and forth. It's hard when you design something and you're in clay. Because sometimes, like let's, for example, Simon Lee, he's a concept sculptor, but he'll sculpt multiple pieces before he finds the one, and then he'll sculpt a big one. In my case, I sculpt a big one, rip off certain areas, build it back up, rip off, build it back up, to the point where it becomes 3 sculptures, to 4 sculptures, to 5 sculptures in one. And that's the issue I keep running into. But that's also because I don't have the patience. Maybe if I'm being honest, I don't have the patience to sit there and sculpt a million little individuals until I find the right one. It's kind of a part of the fun. It's just making something big and fixing that instead of making a bunch of little ones. But once I finish that sculpture, I'll be doing a lot of casting and painting. And that's going to be what I'm going to be doing for the next couple months until, I make a good inventory. Because inventory is key, especially in my line of career. Yeah, pulling these out are never easy, especially with the Frankenstein. Sometimes I need 2 people, or sometimes I need 2 big thighs to just kind of hold it with one. I'll grab one side. Imagine this, right? Took 2 hands, pulled it with my pinky. I can pull it out like that. Imagine something bigger, where I'm holding it with my thigh, and I'm grabbing it, I'm pulling it out, Set that aside. Put your rubber band on it because you don't want it to warp. Oh, I'll look at it in a bit. I'm kind of excited, but I'm just going to take these apart first. Right away. This one doesn't look too great. The rubber band slipped down to the bottom because this kind of has a little slope, so it slipped down. So I don't know if the key came out good or not. Yeah, my throat is very, very dry. So with this one especially, I like to start snipping off all the little bleeder because it gets in the way. And it's really hard to take it off when it's cured. I'll go in with a Dremel. It's a big mess, so I'm gonna try to take this off right now. Not cut my fingers like I have before. Yeah. Oh, pinch my nip. But yeah. While I'm at it, I'm gonna snip off this one before it gets dry. Like, so yeah, this is beyond green, but it's still rubbery enough where I can snip it off. Yeah, when it comes to the point where you think it's actually gonna crack, don't bother. You don't want to crack one of your sculptures. Rip off all the little seams or membrane, whatever you want to call it. Right, very nice. Put these aside. Oh, this one. Yeah, you see, I already dropped resin in here, and that's why I need the base. Keep it as clean for as long as possible. That's the goal, right? So now this one, let's check this one out. Ow. Oh, I'm nervous. So it's pretty flat, which is great. That's what I was worried about. The edges are pretty clean, which is great. The seam line is fantastic. Whoa. Whoa, that's nice. It's a nice seam line. And the beauties of using this, because usually if I was just using my hands, when I would go to rub in, it would sometimes push material into the split line, and when you go to close it, it won't give it that nice close. And in this case, no material went into that seam line, and it came out without a membrane. Fantastico. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put all this back together, and then I'll observe the molds and see how good they came out, or how shit they came out. Yeah, this rubber band sucks ass. Come on. Let's not worry about that right now. Hey, since you want to act like such a punk ass. Right? So, let's see. Let's see how well they did. I'm gonna look at this light, so I'm gonna get out of frame for a little bit. Okay. So, first things first. It's not perfect. It's definitely not bad. Like, the bubbles are so small that if you were just looking at this piece, you wouldn't notice. Even if you were looking hard. Like, I'm looking specifically for them. And they're really hard to see. And in some cases, I kind of mistaked some as just texture. Which is, anybody that says, oh, just leave the bubbles, it just adds texture. They can go, you know what they can go do. It's such a lazy excuse to not try to improve. Yeah, so this one's not perfect, but the main points aren't damaged, which are the canines and these little spikes right here. In the cracks of those spikes is where I'm seeing bubbles. But so tiny, I can barely even see them. They're tiny enough where I'm still gonna go patch them. Like, I leave no stone unturned. But it's definitely not bad. Definitely not bad. Especially for how little effort I put into this. And how hot it is in here. Which is actually regulated now. Like, it's probably like 75 degrees in here. Before it was, probably like 80. I would have the AC, but it sucks so much energy. And with the stupid compressor, yeah, there's no way. It won't the breaker won't shut off. But, yeah. It's not bad for not putting... Yeah, there's still some. It's not bad for not putting any effort into it. And that's how I feel about this one. I didn't put any effort into it. All I did was pour, spin, shove it in here. If I did this a lot quicker and I put the PSI a little higher, I probably would have eliminated all bubbles. But I didn't have that much time. And by the time it probably went to 50 PSI, it probably was already cured. Because as soon as I turned it off and unplugged it, the cup was solid. Not tacky, but solid. So, sadly, I don't think that's useful. But it's not bad for not putting any effort. If I probably would have poured a little bit in there, scrubbed it, poured more in there and just kind of give it a little turn and then shoved it in here, it would have been fine. But I had to, worry about these two. Now these two, let's see. So yeah, definitely some bubbles. Definitely some bubbles. This is shit. That's garbage. So yeah, I believe this has way too many bubbles for this thing, especially in the areas that have bubbles. So what happened was, it kicked a little bit before I had the pressure, the PSI all the way up. So not all the bubbles had time to escape, because I can kind of see how they were traveling and they were trying to escape, but they didn't have enough time. Especially this one, it's like it's trying to reach it, stops there. This one's almost there, but it stops and it cures. And because there's none at the bottom, it's only where it's trying to rise up. So the bubbles were trying to escape, but they didn't have enough time to. So for the next round, I'll just be a lot faster. Now with the base, this one actually came out really good, which I expected it to. This has zero detail for it not to. It's very simple. It's built like a pyramid, so it only has one direction, which is up. There's no little curves it has to hit to go up. So this one, as expected, came out perfect. So that's kind of an idea. Yeah, let's see, what time is it? Maybe I should do another one. So it's, half an hour. Half an hora. And people are in the comments. I'm so sorry. I did not see anything. Let me read those real quick. Let's see. Let me see. Where is it? Where am I? Here. Okay, where is it? I hope those comments aren't too new. Otherwise, I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So let's see. David. I thought that was you. I'll worry about you. How can I get one? How can you get what? Oh my god, no. Oh yeah, this was half an hour ago. I should have been reading these. Okay, so David asked a couple questions and I'm going to read them all off. Okay, how can I get one? You can get one on my Etsy. Just go on Etsy and type in Night Image Designs. You can find a lot of my stuff there. If you know me personally, just message me, and we'll talk. Everything's on my Etsy. Just type in Night Image Designs. You'll find it. Are you ever gonna make some of the Joker? If so, I'm sold. If by the Joker you're referring to that one, is it on screen? It's a little bit on screen. That one's a little difficult. That Joker mask was made for a fat guy, which is no longer a fat guy. Brandon has currently lost so much weight, it's ridiculous. It's not even the same person at this point. It's really impressive. So whoever that guy is up there that I sculpted on, it's a pretty big head. And I don't think the mask will fit any normal person anymore. It was meant for him. He still wants me to do a custom Joker mask for him, but obviously I have to life cast him again because it's such a big difference. So yeah, that one, if I do end up finishing it, it'll probably be for sale. You'll probably have to buy it at your own risk because I don't know if it's going to fit you. But eventually. Everything I work on is at some point going to be for sale. I'm not selfish, and I don't try to harbor all my art like it's my precious. But I like sharing my art with people. That's why I'm planning on doing a lot more giveaways for people that just want an opportunity to get something and not have to spend a lot of money, because I understand my stuff's expensive, and understandably my stuff costs a lot to make and costs a lot of time. I'm not selling my stuff at the highest market. I sell it for what it's worth. My stuff, if someone way more better than me would make what I make, the prices could be, quadruple the cost. So I feel like I sell mine at a very low price, in comparison to other people that are way better. So, yeah. Okay, next question. Would you like me to bring you water? Yeah. It's sad that that's a question that you can't fulfill, or yeah. That's sad that that's a question you can't fulfill my answer to. But yes, I would love if you would have brought me water. I'm so thirsty. How does it not leak out of the mold? Well, there's so silicone. The great thing about silicone is when it touches itself, it kind of has a nice suction bond, if that makes any sense. Like, think about anything that has that's used for leaks, that's used to prevent leaks, like for water lines and for gas lines and for air lines. Everything that connects to anything has a rubber gasket, and it's something about rubber that causes that stops things from flowing through it. Like if you look at like a faucet, there's like a silicone gasket. You look at something like can you see that? I don't know if you can see it. My vacuum chamber. This is silicone. Any other material wouldn't stop the suction. Wouldn't stop the air. So it's something about silicone that has an amazing suction to it. So when you make a cut like this, you open it back up, you close it, you put some tension in it, for example, a rubber band. Nothing's gonna really escape it. It's the same principle as any other rubber gasket. It's something about this material that just sticks to itself, and not like in a gummy way, but there's not really a way to explain it unless you understand the feeling of silicone. And yeah, something about silicone and pressure, it stops anything from leaking through, and that's why it's so great to use one of these, because when I'm sticking my finger in here and I'm pushing things into the seam line, it keeps them from completely doing its job, which is stopping liquid from seeping through, and that's when you get those massive, membranes that I have to peel off. But yeah, that's why it doesn't leak. If that makes sense. I don't know if that made any sense. Next question. Can't tell if the air is coming out of the thing or coming out of you with that face. Are you referring to the pressure pot? Because if you're referring to the pressure pot when I had it all sealed up. What? Coming out of you. Oh, okay, I understand the question now. I'm not going to answer that. That's pretty funny, though. Oh, okay. What about a small Joker head like the Godzilla one? Yeah, I definitely plan on doing a line of, like, DC stuff, Marvel stuff. I mean, I want to eventually get into that realm, into that genre. Because I'm going to get off this thing because it's rattling like hell. But, yeah, I want to get into other genres. I'm kind of a monster guy. Like, I like monsters. I like Frankenstein. I like Godzilla. I like Kong. I like creatures. I like aliens. But I do want to do more, like, do other stuff. And I also want to do, at some point, some fine art stuff. But fine art is something you kind of do when you're depressed. I haven't been feeling like that, so I don't really feel like getting in my zone and working on some art pieces. So I'm kind of just working on my Godzilla right now. I did work on a little Batman head. I don't know if you guys saw it on my story a while back. I didn't like it, which I wasn't planning on making it to where I like it. I was just planning on making it into a fun video. But it came out so shit, I just didn't care. But yeah. going back to your question, at some point, yeah, I would like to do a little Joker head. I've talked about it a lot with myself, alone, and I do want to get another line of miniature little head sculptures like my Gojiras. I was even thinking about doing Kong at some point, but something about gorillas that isn't appealing because every time I do a Kong, it just looks like a regular gorilla. So I need to come up with a concept that's a little unique, something that I'll enjoy doing. Let's look at some other. Okay. Who said I can't fulfill that answer? I mean, I didn't say. I mean, if you're saying you want to, I mean, my doors are always open to you, David. You know that. You know that. But yeah, God, I look like such a nerd with my apron. Oh my God, disgusting. That's why I don't watch my own live streams. Yeah. Yeah, and also like, apologies to everybody that was looking forward to last week's live stream. I don't know if you guys look forward to it, honestly. I do this because I have fun. But yeah, my internet was so terrible. I spent 3 hours. I usually start working on the live stream 3 hours before, setting up, making the thumbnail, getting everything ready, and it just wasn't working. I kept losing signal, or the signal wasn't strong enough, and it was the worst experience I had doing a live stream. So I was like, I can't do this. I gotta figure something else out. So I was gonna either extend the router. I know I'm going into boring territory. I'm just kind of explaining why I didn't do a live stream yesterday. So I got a Wi-Fi extender, which if you don't know what that is, you plug it into the wall, and it takes the weak ass signal from the halfway point, and it brings it all the way over here. So that's exactly what's going on right now. Even though the signal isn't super strong, I mean, it's not like fantastic. It's not like if I was over there next to the router, it'd be working. But it definitely makes the live stream happen. And that's why I'm doing it today, gratefully. Otherwise, I would have just done like a little live stream in my room, but I didn't have anything to do. And I wanted to do a casting live stream. Now, obviously, I can't do this in my room. So, if something like that ever happens again, I might just do a little like live stream in my room, working on something. I don't know. We'll just call it Robert Talk, or instead of TED Talk. But yeah, apologies to everybody that I didn't get a live stream done last week. It was kind of a bummer. I've never missed a live stream since I started doing these, so I don't plan to miss again. And let's see, what time is it? It's 8:38. So, do I have enough material? I was considering casting a Frankenstein, but this isn't a Frankenstein casting session. This is a Godzilla casting session. So if I do a Frankenstein, it's probably going to be an actual video, not a live stream, because that process is very, very long, very, very boring. So I'll cut all the the boring stuff, and I'll get straight to the juicy stuff. So I'm going to be working and talking, which is a good habit to pick up, especially when you're in an industry that requires speed and efficiency. So, I don't know. I guess I'll just talk about a couple stuff while I cast up another batch of Godzilla heads. Let's see. What's something to talk about? I don't know. What's going on in your guys' life? Okay. So, just hope you guys can hear me. Just to let you guys know, for next month, if you're not already, oh, my allergies. My throat's killing me. I forgot to powder my shit. If you guys aren't like an avid viewer, next month, is going to be Star Wars month. And if you're not a nerd, this month isn't for you, because I in fact am a massive nerd, and I'm gonna dedicate a whole month to making Star Wars content. And yes, I'm gonna be doing live streams. I don't know about what, because most of my time and effort's gonna be, put into making actual videos. And I enjoy videos more because, I mean, it takes time. I mean, not that I enjoy them more than the live streams. I enjoy the outcome of them more. I don't like the process of making them. I like the process of watching them after I've finished making them. But yeah, I don't think I want to spoil all the stuff I'm going to work on. But if you are a big Star Wars fan, I am going to be working on a lot of cool projects during the month, and hopefully get a video out every week, or if anything every other week, and have a live stream of something Star Wars related during the week. But yeah, I have so many just like Star Wars projects of my own that I want to finish. So what better way to finish them than jamming them all in an entire month? Yeah, I forget this isn't a cheap, or it's not like the usual little like nozzle. Like usually the other ones you gotta like pull back and then clip it in and let go. This one it's already pulled back, so when you put it in, it clips on. Great. Get all that powder out. That's good. So those are prep. And when powdering them, do a good job, but you don't have to like sit there and powder them for hours and blow at it for 10 minutes. Just do what you need to do and move on. So now that it's nice and cold in here, and yes, the temperature changed pretty quick. This one might have a lot more working time. So what I say before, I said 80? I think 80 was pretty good. So 82 right there. And now when you're done using your urethanes, close them up and put them away. Don't just let it sit there. And just remember, if the weaker the seal is, the less it's gonna last. The shorter shelf time it has. So I'm cleaning my hands because I'm gonna go in that one just to make sure it comes out perfect. Okay. Tear, start fresh. If you want to, you can just add 80 plus 80. You can get 100, or 82 plus 82. You just get 164. But I like to tear. And start from zero. I feel like it's just better for my mental health. And if you can't hear me, I'm sorry. Heart beating steady. 60, that's 60, 70, 74, 76, 78, 81. Okay, that's fine. Also, if you want to get yourself some amazing 808, I get it at Berman's. I think they're the only place that manufactures it. There's definitely different types of materials just very similar to this that you can get from like BJB or whatever. You can order it online if you don't want to drive all the way to North Hollywood. But I like making the trip, so. Alright, so this one gotta be a lot faster. Let's get this thing prepped. Okay, that's in there. And get those memory muscles ready. my shit. I also like to mix this over a trash can. That's usually how I do it. But I don't have a trash bag in my trash can. I just have a piece of cardboard at the bottom. I'm being very open right now, so I'm just throwing it on the cardboard. And I don't want to. So pour a little bit in there. Right. Get in there, get in there. Start mixing, get it all incorporated in all the areas. All the areas, come on. Come on. Okay, pour it. Yeah, this is how you're supposed to be working. Like a man. Not like a little wuss. Okay, mix it. No, close it. Put this in. Put this in. Pour it. Come on. Okay, that one's gonna be pretty bad, but that's okay. Like I said, these are also just tests. If I was doing this for Monster Blues, I probably wouldn't actually be using this thing, to be quite honest. Come on! Yeah, I freaking hate that thing so much. What the freaking hell, man? Yeah. That's officially my least favorite part of this entire thing. Yeah, it's gonna start curing. Yeah, okay, let's start. Took it to 60, and I took it pretty fast. What the actual hell? I gotta change this. It's gonna have to be like that from now on. Yeah, it's a really weird design to put this so close. That was pretty hectic. So hopefully this comes out. Let's check the cup. Cup check. And it's gummy, so that could be a good sign. That could be a terrible sign. Let's just hope for the best, 'cause I am tired of making shit. Yeah. Just sit here and wait. But I guess while this is waiting, what's some other stuff I can talk about with you guys? I guess, yeah. I told you about the art shows that I'm doing this year and next year. Monsterpalooza, WonderCon, maybe LA Comic Con. Trying to get into DesignerCon. So, trying to get into Comic Con. I'm on the wait list, but that's a more long-term, thing. Because the wait list is like 5 years, but if I get on the good side, I can get in earlier, which is the saying. But yeah, if you guys want to see me at those conventions, by all means, put that in your calendar if I matter that much to you. And look forward to next month, May. All the good videos, all the good content I've been holding back is coming out next month, starting May 4th. It's gonna be great. Also, when Bad Batch comes out, yeah, I need to get some more next time. And what else? The Raptor project. For those of you that are aware of that Raptor project, that is coming soon. I'm gonna be working on that. Be aware. It's just I've just been giving all my time to the things that have already made a staple into my schedule. So, which I could have worked on it. The thing about that project is I'm using wet clay, so I need to make sure I'm working on it every single day. Otherwise, it's going to dry up and it's going to be a piece of shit. when it dries up and cracks and, you know, all that stuff. But I will get back onto it. I might even do a live stream of that one. I think that would be kind of interesting. What else? Yeah, but I'll jump back on that when I'm done with my Godzilla, which I've given myself 4 months to finish. Which is more than enough time. I'll definitely have it done by then. Yeah, and then I'll definitely do a live stream of me casting one of those. I think that'll be interesting. And definitely, he's going to be a cinematic series. So if those of you that have been watching my Instagram, I posted about a shoot that I did the other day, and that shoot was for the second half of Godzilla. He's going to be made into a few parts. Part 1 is sculpting. Part 2 is molding and casting. Part 2 is actually just molding. And then part 3 is casting and painting. And that's going to be a fantastic one. I look forward to that one. Yeah. Actually, no, I think I am going to bring it down. So just sculpting, molding, casting, and then painting. But yeah, he's going to be a series. I'm still working on the sculpting cinematic, obviously. If you guys have seen my cinematics before, obviously, if you don't know, my good buddy Alan is the one that does them. He's a fantastic cinematographer. Has already had one feature film under his belt and a huge portfolio of many other commercials and films he's worked on. So that dude's legit. But yeah, he's the one that did my Mimic and the Scavenger trailer, which if you haven't seen the Scavenger trailer, go watch it. If you have seen it, go watch it. That's my favorite video of my whole YouTube channel. It's fantastic. It's amazing. And he's the one that's doing my Frankenstein painting video, which is supposed to come out when I have the Frankenstein done, because the one I'm painting is different from the one I'm selling. The one I'm not selling, I'm giving away, is the one I did on the live stream. And the video is kind of like a little promotion to help shoot the giveaway. But yeah, when that one comes out, which should be soon, I'm not going to say when, it should be soon. I just need to find a nice song for it. And maybe posting it might motivate me to finish it. Honestly, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm just going to post it and then watch it. And then hurry up and finish the sculpture. But yeah, that'll be coming out within the next some days. But yeah. So I got a lot of cinematics in the works, which is great. I like doing these videos, but I like cinematics because, you know, they're cool. they're just really cool. But this shit should be done, so let's start. Nice. And that's it. Unscrew this. Like I said, unscrew it to the bare minimum. Don't over unscrew it. Fantastic. You smell that? It smells like death. Alright. So off the bat, it's really bad. Yeah, I figured this one's okay. The base is trash. It overflowed, which I was aware was going to happen when I poured it in. Technically, usually with overflowed pieces like this, I would take it on a belt sander, and I would just like, you know, grind off the overbuild, and I'll have, you know, a perfectly flat surface. And then, you know, sometimes I have this little piece of plywood with a sprayed on glued piece of sandpaper, and I'll just go on that, like sand things down. So I'll like sand it on that, and then it'll come out like smooth, and it'll look nice. Like I have no issues with doing stuff like that. But you know, it's a big process as to like just pouring it and it's done. Like for example, this. You know, I just explained everything I have to do with this one. This one took just as much time, and I have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to work on. So that's the only thing. And that's what I say. Like with castings, it's always best to give it your best, to give it your all the first time. Because if you're just like, oh, you can just go in and patch it. Yeah, well, going in and patch it's going to take longer than you casting another one up. Might as well throw it away. That's my kind of point of view with all this stuff. I'm just going to leave it out so you guys can see it. But, yeah, it's not done. It's definitely not cured. Things like this, like this size, usually take longer. See that? That's not affecting any of the sculpture, you know. This is just the surface, the top. But yeah, that's how you know it's not ready. Or, you know, you kind of just put your finger on it, and if it leaves a fingerprint, it's not ready. Or, you know, if you open it up and it turns out to be chewing gum, it's not ready. So we wait, we talk a little bit, you know. You guys can tell me a little bit about yourselves. I can see there's 3 people watching it live and 19 people back streaming it, which is great. For those of you that are watching it live, great. You're ahead of everybody. So when I screw up, you're the first ones to see it. So, I'm just gonna sit down for a little bit. You can come with me. Yeah, this is more like it. This is more like the old school podcasts that we used to have with Brandon. By the way, Brandon's gonna make some appearances here and there, down the line. For those of you that like him more than me. That was pretty funny. Yeah, I'm just trying not to sneeze right now. Sorry. I'm usually like this for the next 2 months. And then it goes away, and then I'm back to normal. But, yeah. Expect a lot of videos sometime soon. I like doing these live streams, but for example, something like this, I feel like it'd be a lot more entertaining if I just cut the bullshit, show you guys the fun part. I did, if you guys see me rubbing my nose, it's because it's really dry and it kind of hurts. But if you guys have seen, I got my nice vacuum chamber back there, right? That vacuum chamber has yet to be used, and I can't wait to use it, and it's definitely going to be in a video. It's definitely going to be a short video, maybe like half an hour or 20 minutes, but definitely not 2 hours like I do my live streams. And I do my live streams because there's just a lot to show in certain things, and I kind of like to show those little parts of it. But the great thing, you know, the nice thing about a video is that you get to show the whole process without eating up 2 hours worth of your time. You know, that's half of Justice League. If you watch 2 of my live streams, that's half of Justice. Or that's as long as Justice League is. But that's cool, you know. Yeah. So right now, this is gonna be my last casting for the night, and then we'll call it a night. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. So that's been 2 hours. I'm gonna demold these. Actually, I think this one, I'm down to. You know what? This one's crap, anyways. I don't mind opening it up. It's actually really nice. if it wasn't so thick, this would have been a really good one. Yeah, that one's actually good. If I end up grinding the bottom down later, that'll be cool. I mean, that'll work. Let's see this one. Let's see the big head. Yeah. So, right off the bat, this has a substantial size of a membrane, which is expected because I put my finger in there and start rubbing around, which pushes pressure and pushes out some of the material into the seam, the cut line, which creates a membrane. So I'm going to close this back up. It's the last mold, so last casting of the day. And like I said, like if I'm working, I'm not like sitting down and explaining things like this, the process is a lot faster. I probably would have had 4 by now. Even yes, the cure time still takes a while. You'll be surprised how more efficient you'll be by speeding up your working time. Yeah, I would have had like at least 2 extras by now. But that's like the kind of speed you need to go at when making stuff like this, because you don't want to waste your time. Remember, time is money. If you can get 10 done in a day, that's fine. But you can kind of literally get 50 done in a day if you want to. Not saying everybody's going to want to cast out 50 every day, but that's a good chunk. I've definitely done it before. That's why I know I can. Yeah, I used to have like 50 of these. I had like an inventory of 100 at one point, which was insane. It was like I think it was like 3 buckets, like little like gallon buckets. They were just filled with them. It was just the heads. I had like another bucket just for jaws and then bases, and it was crazy. It was crazy. But eventually, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a huge, massive restock on inventory. This one seems to be okay. There's a slight bubble on the canine, and I can tell because it's still green. So when I push, I see a little bubble that like kind of pinches out. That makes sense. So imagine it's flat, and I'm pushing it down here, and you see the little bubble kind of pinch out. But it's very tiny, and the only reason I can see it's because it's still green. So yeah, that's essentially something I have to go in and patch, which is not what you want to do. But it seems like doing it by hand, you receive a better outcome. And that's kind of why I don't use these that much. I know a lot of people that do. And, respectfully, I understand. Especially on time management, you just have to knock things out. And if quality isn't a key thing, like, by all means, like, use the pressure pot. But I kind of work with what I need. And I make sure whatever I'm doing to the best of my ability and at the best, in the best way you can possibly do that. So, for example, the head, you can already see it's a better outcome when I do it by hand as to doing it in this. So obviously, even if this takes longer, I'll do it this way. It seems that the bases come out a lot faster and a lot cleaner in here. I haven't had a single air bubble on any of them, other than, the overfill on the other one, but that's my fault. So yeah, I'll do this in here. It's the best way to do it. The jaw keeps coming out like crap. So yeah, I would be doing this by hand from now on. And that's kind of like the rule of thumb with these things. You do whatever you can in the best possible technique you can do it in. Otherwise, you gotta figure out a different way. And this is kind of, like, this is all, like, experimental. Everything you do is experimental. You could be just doing something for, like, a year and find a better way to do it. And you just got to go with it, even if it's a little bit more difficult. I've seen that quality outweighs quantity in every way. I guess, like, in my point of view, would you rather be the 99-cent store? I'm sure they make tons of money, busting out crap and, little shitty toys or whatever. Or would you rather, buy something from Walmart, better quality, like house appliances? You know what I mean? Like, it's always better to do your best. And I know that's, like, kind of, I mean, like, it's a no-brainer. But when it comes to this stuff, trying to make money by working faster is not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to make your shit sloppy, and it's honestly going to give you a bad rep. And reputation's a big thing in this industry. And if you're producing crap, you're known for crap. And I'm not bashing anybody that, might not be the most talented. Obviously, in that case, you give it all. My nose is really dry. In that case, you give it all you got. And then, but when you're doing each step, you definitely need to give it. Hold on, I need my freaking nose before I go into this freaking speech of give it your all. Yes, I'm wiping my nose on camera. Deal with it. Just so much better. But yeah, that's kind of like my experience. And I feel like my grudge comes from people that price their stuff at a pretty, I would say, like, high, but a pretty, like, average rate. But their quality is so far below what they're marketing it as. And things like that irk me. And I think it irks me because I'm a collector as well. Like, I buy stuff. I buy statues. I buy collectibles. I buy other people's art. And when you spend a lot of money and you see the quality behind it is, like, the bare minimum, it almost pisses you off because it's like, it doesn't matter how good this sculpture is. You didn't put any effort afterwards. There's no effort I can visibly see that you put in after the sculpture. And that annoys me. And I deal with it a lot because I buy a lot of stuff. So that's kind of like why I say, like, when you're doing casting, make sure it's the best you can do. And to some degree, in my point of view, try not to sneeze. My point of view, if your casting's not perfect, don't sell it. Because your sculpture obviously didn't have that little bubble there. So why would the final product? That's me being very harsh, but it's also very real. So yeah. I feel like I'm very picky like that with casting because in my opinion, casting is equal to your sculpture. Because you're trying to recreate your sculpture. So if there's imperfections, if there's seam lines that weren't there originally, why would you want like if you were okay with bubbles, why didn't you sculpt the bubble on your actual piece? You didn't sculpt it because it'll look terrible. So why would you make your piece look like that? Why would you cast it and say that that's okay or that's good enough? It's obviously not. Otherwise, you would have actually sculpted it on the original piece. And yeah, that's why casting is very important, and it's one of the most important parts to the final step of your finished piece. So for those of you that want to go out there and cast, I've shown you that the hands-on method is somewhat the best way and still is superior in certain molds to this. Obviously, there's certain times where you do need this, and you will not be able to make a casting without it. But there's other times where sometimes, you know, the the Neanderthal way is, better. And obviously, there's ways to improve this step. But if ways to improve this step is just hurrying up, it kind of doesn't make any sense. You're just going to make more mistakes the faster you go. And you could, there is other techniques, like you could refrigerate some of your material for a short period of time so your curing time is a lot slower, or you could use another material with a longer cure time. You know what I mean? But it seems like for this material, you can do this without this if you want to do it at home. As far as molding goes, I'll probably do a video about that if you guys are interested in how to mold, how to open up your sculpture, how to mold your sculpture. But if you already have a mold and you're just looking to cast, scrub. That's the most important part of getting all the details, scrubbing it, understanding your sculpture, getting in there, rubbing around all the edges, getting all those high points and low points, all those valleys. And then sometimes I use the air hose, and I'll blow it into all the detail. If I don't think my fingers can really get it, the air nozzle will. But if you don't have that, you can do it by hand still. But there's just different ways. There's different techniques. There's other things you can use to cast. There's other materials to use. But for what I'm using, this is kind of the bare minimum of casting. This is like the basics. But you do go into like way more technical molds. Like I've done chess pieces that, it's a chess piece. It's massive, with the back piece and gauntlets, which are insane. And you use syringes, you use funnels, you use tubes. You like hot glue tubes and bleeders. You tape them off. You use a syringe and you go in, and I remember when I did syringe casting. That was probably one of the most complicated forms of casting I did. On matrix molds, gauntlets especially. It can get very difficult. I think the biggest thing I've ever casted was a chest. That was all syringes. And when you're doing it, like I had to make sure that when I went in with the syringe, and it started, when I put in the first syringe, I had to make sure that I plugged it so that there was that vacuum. So the material was still butt up with my finger. It didn't fall into place. So if I syringed it and I took the syringe out and the material was flowing into the hole, I don't know if I'm kind of painting a picture here. Just imagine a matrix mold is a fiberglass case with just imagine a matrix mold. If I simplified it, it's kind of similar to a brush up mold where you brush up the silicone and then you back it with plaster. Except imagine the plaster being fiberglass. And there's a hole that leads into the negative, which is what you're casting. So I grab the syringe and I pour it in there, and I plug it to make sure the material stays stuck with my thumb, so it doesn't fall in and rest. Because if it rests and I put another syringe behind it, you immediately created an air sandwich. So I would syringe it, plug it, and then I'll grab the other syringe, burp it, and I would start leaking out a little bit, and then I'd shoot it in, and it maintained a consistent flow. It didn't separate at any time. And I kept doing that until it actually flowed in, and I had to keep continuing that flow. Otherwise, you'd create a massive air sandwich, and it was a big mess. And that's what I mean when it gets to that technical point of casting, that this is literally the basics, like the bare minimum. It doesn't get any easier than this. And I do have some matrix molds, but they're not complicated in any way. They're very similar to this. Now, matrix mold with the core, that's where it gets pretty complicated. And I haven't done any matrix molds with cores yet. And if I do, it would probably be for like an armored piece. I can't see myself doing it with any sculpture. So, If for some reason I end up making a matrix mold with a core, that would definitely be an interesting video for you guys to watch. But that's it for this live stream. Go this way. And actually, let me say my goodbyes here. I think I'm going to be too close to the camera. But yeah, that's it for this live stream. So thank you guys for watching. I think I've gone over my 2-hour time frame, which is fine. But sorry about last week. I'll be here every Friday. Hopefully there'll be a lot more, diverse mediums to work with other than just sculpting. Like I said, casting was kind of fun. I've done painting. There'll be some other stuff. Hopefully I don't feel like shit on the next one. I feel a lot better. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate everybody that comes and hangs out with me on Fridays. This is kind of like my only time to really interact with people on a weekend, because I don't like to. Because I like to work. I love working, and I love putting all my time into working. So being able to socialize and work at the same time, it's fantastic. I can't really explain it any other way. But thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys didn't get grossed out too much during this live stream. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna call it quits, and I'm gonna go work on my Godzilla for the rest of the night. So thank you guys, and peace.